Lesson 13. Hard Analysis Critical Control Point System, HACCP, was pioneered by the Pillsbury Company in the 1960s. At this time, the space program was escalating and there was a great need to provide a safe food supply for astronauts. This system follows the flow of food through every step, from the time the raw products are brought into the establishment to when the finished product is ready to be served to the consumer. By observing food at each step of the production process, it is easy to recognize potential problems and take action to prevent problems before they occur. The system is based on the following concept. Hazard. A hazard is any condition in which microorganisms, foreign matter, or chemical contaminate foods, and in which the microorganisms are allowed to grow or survive. Analysis. This is the process by which a food item is studied to determine the problems that are likely to occur and how these can be prevented. Not only the ingredients are studied, but the analysis also includes the available equipment, personnel, and the population to be served. Critical control point. This is the step at which action must be taken to prevent, reduce, or eliminate a hazard. Failure to do so at this point will render that food unfit for human consumption. Critical control points will vary depending on the food ingredients, method of preparation, and whether it is a hot or a cold food. In every food preparation process, some action can be taken at every step to prevent problems. However, at critical control points, some action must be taken. Okay, next page. Frequently found hazards. 1. Microorganisms are allowed to grow by improper cooling procedures, not using a method that will reduce the food from 40 degrees Fahrenheit to 70 degrees Fahrenheit within 2 hours, and from 70 degrees Fahrenheit to less than 41 degrees Fahrenheit in an additional 4 hours. Inadequate hot holding prepared foods at less than 140 degrees Fahrenheit while awaiting service. Also, inadequate reheating. Previously cooked foods not reheated rapidly to 165 degrees Fahrenheit within 2 hours using a stove or an oven. Next, microorganisms are allowed to survive by inadequate cooking, not cooking potentially hazardous foods to the required temperatures. Next, improper sanitation. Dishes, utensils, and equipment are not subject to adequate temperatures or chemicals to destroy microorganisms. Finally, microorganisms, chemicals, and foreign matter are allowed to contaminate food by 1. Poor personal hygiene. Food workers do not wash their hands before handling food and food-related equipment. Next, ill food workers. Food workers allowed to work while having an illness that is transmissible through foods. Next, cross-contamination. Allowing ready-to-eat foods to come into contact with raw foods or contaminated equipment. Next, use of contaminated food or ingredient. Using shellfish from unapproved source or meat and meat products from an uninspected or unreliable suppliers. And finally, storing acidic foods in metal containers. Storing barbecue sauce in galvanized containers. Okay, that's like we read before about how foods become contaminated and what to do to avoid them. Next page. Says, the HACCP system, as described by the International Association of Milk, Food, Environmental Sanitarians, has a series of 7 interrelated steps to protect food. Step number 1, identify hazards and assess their severity and risk. The first step in this system is to review recipes to identify potentially hazardous foods or foods containing potentially hazardous ingredients. Set out the preparation process in a flow chart and identify the hazards that can occur each step in the process. Step number 2, determine critical control points. The second step is to identify the critical control points. That is, those steps where action must be taken to prevent, reduce, or eliminate a hazard. Step number 3, institute control measures and establish criteria to ensure control. Determine critical limits. The third step is to determine the measures or the actions that are needed to prevent, reduce, or eliminate hazards that are anticipated. Step number 4, Monitor critical control points and record data. The fourth step is to monitor what is being done at each critical control point to determine whether the hazards are controlled by the actions set up in the third step. Step number 5, take actions whenever monitoring results indicate criteria are not met. The fifth step is to put in place immediate corrective action if the hazards are not controlled at the critical control points. Step number 6, verify that the system is working as planned. The sixth step is to review the system to ensure that it is working, that hazards are identified, corrective actions are taken, and that a safe food product is produced. Last step, step number 7, record keeping. The seventh and last step is record keeping. This allows managers to review the plan from time to time and to help verify that the system is working. All right.